What's going on, guys? It's your boy Dom Kemp here, and today we're going to recap week 1 of the NFL season, guys, September 5th to September 11th. This is something we're going to be doing every week, so every Tuesday pretty much we're going to be recapping the NFL season. We started on Thursday, September 6th. Falcons versus Eagles. That was a slow game, a slow build-up game, not as high scoring as many people thought it was going to be, but of course both offenses struggled as well. The final score 18-12. Matt Ryan threw 21 for 43, 251, one pick, 19 for 34 for Nick Foles, 117, one interception as well, guys. Not a good offensive performance, but the Falcons did only give Devontae Freeman 6 carries for 36 yards. That is 6 yards a carry. I do not know why. He did not get more yards, but of course, I believe he was injured later on in the game. Jay Ajayi, though, they did feed him the ball, 15 carries, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns. We go to receiving, and of course, Julio Jones, 10 receptions, 169. Did not get in the end zone in this game. Zach Ertz, though, was the lead receiver for the Eagles with 5 receptions and 48 yards. So that was game 1. The Eagles start off 1-0 at home, and the Atlanta Falcons start off 0-1. That was Thursday, September 6th. We move on to Sunday. The first game on Sunday was Steelers versus Browns. Pittsburgh Steelers, that is my team, but unfortunately we ended up tying. This is not soccer. I do not understand why the Steelers weren't able to continue playing harder. Of course, Le'Veon Bell being missed was definitely a factor in this game. But James Conner had a great game altogether as a second-year player. We go to the passing yards between both quarterbacks, and Ben Roethlisberger, 23 for 41, 335, 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions against an okay Browns defense. Then Tyrod Taylor, 15 for 40, 197, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. If he keeps playing like that, Baker Mayfield will be starting at least in week 3, I believe. They do play New Orleans this upcoming weekend, so it should be interesting. Moving on to rushing yards, and literally James Conner had a great game. 31 carries, 135, had a fumble, and 2 touchdowns in the end zone. But Tyrod Taylor, 8 carries, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. He was pretty much the running back for this game. Looking at receiving yards, and the lead receivers were Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 receptions, 119 yards, and then Jarvis Landry, aka Juice, from the Miami Dolphins last season, 7 receptions, 106 yards. And the final score ended up being 21-21, guys, in overtime, where the Steelers ended up missing a field goal, and at least the Browns, I would say, didn't lose, but it feels like a loss, especially them having 5 or 6 turnovers against the Pittsburgh Steelers, them getting 5 or 6 turnovers and still drawing this game. Only the Browns would do that. We move on to the next game on Sunday, which was a pretty good one, the Seahawks versus the Broncos. A good game in Denver, but we're going to take a look at the stats and who showed up. The final score was 27-24. The Broncos off to a good start in the AFC. Passing yards, looking at Russell Wilson against Case Keenum. Russell Wilson, 19 for 33, 298, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Excuse me. Then we go over to Case Keenum, 25 for 39, 329 yards, but he did have 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, so had an okay game with the exception of those 3 interceptions. And of course, the Seahawks, not being the defense they used to, was not expecting him to throw 3 interceptions, but he did throw 3 touchdowns against it, so I guess it all balances out. Rushing yards, we're looking at Carson from the Seahawks, 7 carries for 51 yards, and Phillip Lindsay, the undrafted rookie out of Colorado, ends up showing out 15 carries for 71 yards. Did not get in the end zone, but I'm sure he will get in the end zone eventually this season. Going to receiving yards, we got, hopefully I said this correctly, Disley. I think he's the tight end for the Seahawks. 3 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Just a crazy game from him. Emmanuel Sanders had 10 receptions, 135 yards, and a touchdown. So if you have Emmanuel Sanders, definitely a great pickup in fantasy. Was not expecting him to do as good as he did in this game. Moving on, next matchup was playing out. It was the Bengals and the Colts, guys. You weren't really expecting this to be a high-scoring game, but it definitely was a high-scoring game. I most definitely wasn't expecting this. 34-23, the Bengals get off on the right foot in game one of the regular season. We're going to passing yards. Andy Dalton, 21 for 28, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Andrew Luck finally came back after missing almost all the 2017 season, which I believe he did miss the whole 2017 season. Hadn't played since 2016. 39 for 53, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Wow, he literally threw the ball a lot in this game. Moving on to rushing yards, we got Mixon, 17 carries for Cincinnati, 95 yards and a touchdown. Then for the Colts, we have Wilkins, 14 carries for 40 yards. Yeah, Andrew Luck was definitely throwing it around the yard. Receiving yards, we got A.J. Green, 6 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. It looks like the Red Rifle Andy Dalton is back with the connection, of course, of A.J. Green, which has been okay over the years, but hasn't been as dominant as it used to be. We got, for the Indianapolis Colts, Doyle, which I believe is a tight end, 7 receptions for 60 yards, just craziness from Andrew Luck. Throwing it around the yard. He did not have a touchdown, though. Main man, Doyle, he did not have a touchdown, though. But Andrew Luck, he threw to 2 other receivers, and they got a touchdown. So it's not the best start for the Indianapolis Colts, especially starting off at home with Andrew Luck back 23-34. They end up losing in this one. Moving on. The next match was the Titans and Dolphins, which was in history of the NFL. It was the longest game ever. 7 hours plus. Crazy. 2 lightning delays to beat the Titans. Yeah, definitely a crazy game. But the Titans lost 27-20. Miami's off on the right foot this season. We're going to take a look at the passing yards. I think Marcus Mariota ended up getting hurt, so Blaine Gabbert ended up stepping in his place, 11 for 22, 117, 1 interception. But Ryan Tannehill finally came back, missed the majority of the 2017 season. Ryan Tannehill did 20 for 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Oh, wow. Moving on, rushing yards. We got Dion Lewis, used to be a Patriot last season, 16 carries, 75 yards, and a touchdown. And then we got the man who's looking to break records, who's looking to break the rushing record, 9 carries, 61 yards, Frank Gore, trying his best to be the lead running back in the history of the NFL in the sense of rushing yards. Interesting about that. Receiving yards, we got Davis, 6 receptions for 62 yards from the Titans. Then we got Kenny Stills, who is my flex player in fantasy, 4 receptions, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Definitely a good game from him and a great fantasy pickup as well. Moving on, Miami ended up winning that game 27-20. Moving on, 49ers and Vikings, Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer undefeated in his starts as a quarterback for whether it was the Patriots or whether it's the 49ers. He now has a loss on his record, but of course we were expecting that, you all. You know, the Minnesota defense does not play, and they probably got to the passer over and over and over again. And Jimmy G, or Jimmy Garoppolo, because he doesn't deserve a nickname yet, because now there is film on him. He deserved a loss. In this sense, when you're going up against one of the best defenses from a year ago, still are one of the best defenses this year, the Minnesota Vikings, 24-16. They ended up winning, but the 49ers almost had an opportunity to get back in the game. Passing yards, we're going to go Jimmy Garoppolo versus Kirk Cousins. Jimmy Garoppolo, 15 for 33, 261, 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. Kirk Cousins went 20 of 36, 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had a good debut in Minnesota. Have to give him credit. He is not, as of now, the same as Case Keenum was. He is much, much better than Case Keenum, in my opinion, even though in Washington it didn't really work out in the sense of a winning record. But that is neither here nor there. Rushing yards, we look at Breda for the San Francisco 49ers. Since Jerick McKinnon is out for the season, 11 carries, 46 yards. And Latavius Murray, 11 carries for 42 yards for Minnesota. Moving on to receiving yards, we got Kittle, 5 receptions for 90 yards, and Adam Thielen, 6 receptions for 102 yards. Definitely a primary target this season for Kirk Cousins. It's going to be Adam Thielen. But that is the end of that game, 24-16. Minnesota Vikings take the victory at home, and Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer undefeated. Moving on, we got the Texans versus the Patriots. I am glad I didn't start Deshaun Watson for fantasy because I had the feeling that New England's defense was going to be stout. The final score in this one was 27-20, New England with the victory in Foxborough. Moving on, we got the passing yards. Deshaun Watson versus Tom Brady. We got Deshaun Watson, 17 of 34, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Then Tom Brady, 26 for 39, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Rushing yards, we got Lamar Miller, a.k.a. used to be a Miami Dolphin, 20 carries for 98 yards for Houston. Then Rex Burkhead, 18 carries for 64 yards. Moving to the receiving yards in this game, we got DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans, 8 receptions for 78 yards. And Rob Gronkowski absolutely went mental, 7 receptions, 123 yards, 1 touchdown. The Texans could not really stop him on the receiving end. That is the final score of that one, 27-20. And it's looking like the Patriots actually have a decent defense, especially when you're going up against a high-powered offense in Houston and Deshaun Watson. Moving on, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Saints. No one was expecting this one due to the fact that Jameis Winston is suspended for a few games. And I believe, Ryan Fitzpatrick absolutely went mental in the New Orleans home field, or at the New Orleans home stadium, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I believe it's called, 48-40. Just a high-scoring game, and I'm sure even though the Saints lost, the fans were loving it. 48-40, Tampa Bay goes off, almost scoring 50 points, almost scoring a 50-burger. And we're going to take a look at the quarterback matchup passing yards-wise. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 21 for 28, 417 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Drew Brees, 37 of 45, 439 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This was just a shootout. This was literally, this was like a Big 12 game in college football. No one played any defense, and it was just craziness the whole game, Fitzpatrick and Brees. But that's neither here nor there. It was just a high-scoring game in the first NFL game of the season, and no one expected Tampa Bay to score 48 points on the Saints defense, especially not me because I have the Saints defense in fantasy, and it got me -9 points, so I'm kind of frustrated about that. Rushing yards, we're going to Barber, 19 carries for 69 yards for Tampa Bay, and Alvin Kamara, 8 carries for 29 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is slippery for the Saints, man, and I'm telling you that as soon as Mark Ingram gets back, that's when the Saints will have that extra power in the backfield, because Alvin Kamara is agility. He's speed, agility, quickness, and elusiveness. But Mark Ingram he will run you over like Adrian Peterson did this weekend. Receiving yards, we're moving on. Mike Evans, 7 receptions for 147 yards and a touchdown for Tampa Bay. Then Michael Thomas, 16 receptions, 180, 1 touchdown for the Saints. Guys, definitely a high-scoring game, a shootout. No one was expecting Ryan Fitzpatrick to go off like he did. Had 4 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown, by the way. I forgot about that. But he just went absolutely mental against the New Orleans Saints in their own stadium. Moving on, Jaguars and Giants. This is a game I did not see the highlights of yet, so I am actually looking forward to. It was Odell Beckham Jr. versus Jalen Ramsey and Saquon Barkley in his first start as an NFL running back. The final score, though, was 20-15. Jacksonville ends up getting a 5-point victory in New York. Looking at the passing game, wasn't the best passing game between both quarterbacks. Blake Bortles versus Eli Manning, 18 for 33, 176, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception for Blake Bortles. Not his best game, but of course, the rushing game was on point. In a way, it wasn't as major as you would think due to the fact that Leonard Fournette was out. Eli Manning, though, 23 for 37, 224 yards, and an interception. Did not score a touchdown, or throw a touchdown, I should say, to Odell Beckham Jr., which that's not really what you expect from Eli Manning. I know he's getting older and things of that sort, but you would expect him to at least get him a touchdown in the sense, or more run after the catch. Let's take a look at rushing. TJ Yeldon versus Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley definitely had the better game, and it was against a stout defense in Jacksonville, a top 3 defense in the NFL last year. Definitely going to be the same this year. Saquon Barkley, though, a rookie out of Penn State, definitely showed up and showed out against a good Jacksonville front 7. TJ Yeldon, 14 carries, 51 yards. Saquon Barkley, 18 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Not a bad game from the rookie in his first start as a New York Football Giant. Receiving yards. Moving on, we got Cole for the Jaguars, 3 receptions, 54 yards. And then, of course, Odell Beckham Jr., 11 receptions, 111 yards. That is pretty much 10 yards a catch in the sense of that. Very interesting game there, guys. Very interesting game by Odell Beckham Jr. He definitely tried his best. But, of course, Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Bouye, those great cornerbacks shut him down in the sense of not allowing him to get in the end zone. But I'm sure Odell Beckham Jr. wanted to get in the end zone. But, of course, when you're going up against some great cornerbacks, it's definitely harder to do. But he still ate. He still got his yards. I got to give him credit there against a good defense like Jacksonville. Moving on, we got the Bills and the Ravens. This was a game that, let's just be honest, was not a good game at all. Baltimore absolutely wiped out the Buffalo Bills, and I was not expecting them to do this because I did end up picking up Charles Clay. That's the tight end for the Buffalo Bills, and he didn't do a dang thing. But passing yards and passing performance, Josh Allen versus Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco looked like MVP. Joe Flacco looked like Super Bowl Joe Flacco from a few years ago against a terrible Buffalo Bills defense. Josh Allen, 6 for 15, 74 yards. And yeah, that is the Buffalo Bills quarterback, not the best. And of course, Nathan Peterman ended up starting that game, but of course he got subbed out. Joe Flacco, 25 for 34, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns in total. It was way too easy for him. 47 points. That is absolutely crazy. Murphy, the running back for the Buffalo Bills. I wonder what happened to Shady McCoy, a.k.a. LaShawn McCoy, in this game. Interesting. He had 6 carries for 31 yards. Not that much to mention about for him. But we got the main man for Baltimore, Dixon, 13 carries, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. Looking at the receiving yards from both teams, Jones, no idea who these players are for Buffalo, and they screwed up when they traded Tyrod Taylor. That was dumb. 3 receptions for 26 yards, and that's about it for him. Willie Snead, though, the 4th or 5th. I think it is maybe the 4th. Or maybe even the 6th. I don't know. Willie Snead, though, 4 receptions, 49 yards, and a touchdown. But Flacco definitely looked great in this game against a terrible Buffalo Bills team. But so did the Baltimore defense. They looked great as well. So it's definitely a place that many teams aren't looking to go to. I know it's the Buffalo Bills, but definitely a stadium that most teams aren't wanting to go to, that is in Baltimore. Moving on from that terrible game on Sunday there, 47-3. Chiefs and Chargers. This was actually a pretty good game. I had 2 fantasy players in this game, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. I started Tyrod Taylor over Patrick Mahomes due to the fact that I believe that Tyrod Taylor would have had a decent game against the Steelers, which he did. He had only 1 or 2 points less than Patrick Mahomes, so I'm okay with that. But I'm definitely going to be starting Patrick Mahomes this week in this one. Passing yards, though, guys, 38-28 was the final score in LA. So I'm trying to understand, how are there more Chiefs fans in the crowd than Los Angeles Chargers? That just doesn't make any sense. But I guess it makes sense in the sense that the LA Chargers don't have a great fan base like the Rams do right now. 38-28, the Chiefs come out with the W with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill absolutely going mental in this game. Passing yards. The storyline in this one was Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill pretty much, you all. Passing yards, Patrick Mahomes versus Phillip Rivers. 15 for 27 for Patrick Mahomes, 256 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Phillip Rivers looking like Phillip Rivers. 34 for 51, 424 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. Rushing yards, it was Kareem Hunt versus Melvin Gordon. 15 carries for 49 yards for Hunt. Gordon, 15 carries for 64 yards in this game. Neither of them got in the end zone because it was just a passing clinic out there. Receiving yards, Tyreek Hill versus Keenan Allen. 7 receptions, 169 yards, and 2 touchdowns, with also a special teams touchdown for Tyreek Hill. So 3 touchdowns in total. Definitely played awesome wherever he was put. But Keenan Allen had a good game as well. 8 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown. So definitely a team to watch out for, the Kansas City Chiefs. Definitely a team that you won't expect to go as far as they are going to go, because I believe that this is a playoff team as long as they can stay consistent and healthy with Travis Kelce as well. Not even in the box score, because Tyreek Hill, he took over that in that sense. Crazy to think about that dynamic duo and the big arm of Patrick Mahomes. Moving on, though, you all, we're about to go back to another game. That was the Redskins and the Cardinals. A good game from Alex Smith. You were not expecting this. I was not expecting this. No one was expecting the Redskins to look how they did in this game, especially with a few weapons in their tight end and then Adrian Peterson at running back and Alex Smith. Definitely a good team in this game. But let's move on. Passing yards for the Washington Redskins. Alex Smith versus Sam Bradford. Alex Smith, 21 for 30, 255 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Sam Bradford, 20 for 34, 153 passing yards and an interception. Definitely was not a good game from Sam Bradford in the passing game because of the Washington Redskins defense was pretty decent. Rushing yards, it was Eric Johnson, but I don't necessarily know his first name. But other than that, it was Adrian Peterson versus Johnson in this one. Duke Johnson, I think it is that. But other than that, that is neither here nor there. 26 carries for 96 yards for AP, 1 touchdown, and Duke Johnson. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. I'm actually going to research. Because I don't want people in the comment section like, oh, you said his name wrong, Dom. Oh, glad I checked. It is David Johnson. Sorry about that. I'm thinking about the running back from the Cleveland Browns. Sorry about that, you all. David Johnson. 9 carries for 37 yards and a touchdown. Receiving yards, it was pretty interesting here. Adrian Peterson, 2 receptions for 70 yards. 33-year-old Adrian Peterson going absolutely mental, running the ball and catching it out the backfield. I might have to pick him up in fantasy. Larry Fitzgerald, 7 receptions for 76 yards in this game. Definitely a very consistent wide receiver, but it's unfortunate he did not get in the end zone. And I think that both of those those 6 points were both from field goals for the Cardinals. Cowboys versus Panthers. This was just an ugly game, not a good game, but the Panthers do have a good defense, so that is one takeaway from this game. The Dallas Cowboys just couldn't get Ezekiel Elliott going, and it was just not a good watch, I would say anyway, and a lot of people agree. But okay. Why is it not showing the stats? Okay, I'll be back with you all in a second. Okay, so the Dallas Cowboys, Carolina Panthers, 16-8. The Panthers ended up winning in this one. And passing yards, passing matchup was Dak Prescott versus Cam Newton. Neither of them had thrown a touchdown or an interception, so I guess that's a pretty good sign. 19 for 29 for Prescott, 170 through the air. Cam Newton, 17 for 26, 161 through the air for him. Rushing yards was literally the running back Cam Newton versus Ezekiel Elliott. 15 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown for Ezekiel Elliott. And Cam Newton, 13 carries, 58 yards and a touchdown for him. Receiving yards, we got Beasley, 7 receptions for 73 yards for the Cowboys. And Christian McCaffrey, 6 receptions for 45 yards in this game. Definitely an ugly game, guys. An ugly start. Excuse me. And definitely an ugly start to the season for both of these teams. But, hey, the Panthers ended up getting a victory, and they have a good defense this season. So it should be interesting to see if their offense can live up to par for the Panthers. I'm not sure about the Cowboys. I don't know what they really need to do, with the exception of not to cut your players who are trying to make things happen and who are helping you stay consistent in the passing game. But, hey, that's neither here nor there. We'll see how they do. Packers and Bears. This was the game of the weekend, I would say. Sunday Night Football on primetime television, 24-23 for the Packers, getting the victory at Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers, not that much to say about him. He was injured. He came back in the second half, and they were down 20. And he said, I am Aaron Rodgers, and I am going to take over this game by myself with the help of Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams. Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and Geronimo Allison. 3 receivers he had who helped him get run after catch in this game, and he went off because they got the run after catch. If it wasn't for the run after catch, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But 24-23 is the final score. Aaron Rodgers absolutely went off in this game. Said, if I can move around, I'm going to throw the ball. And he did just that. Passing yards, Mitchell Trubisky versus Aaron Rodgers. 23 for 35, 171 yards. And no touchdowns or interceptions for him. Aaron Rodgers, though, 20 for 30, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. Definitely a great performance from Aaron Rodgers. Showed up and showed out. Yes, he should have threw a pick on one of his throws, and no, he didn't. But that is literally the luck of the draw in that game. Rushing yards, Jordan Howard versus Williams. 15 carries each. Howard had 82 yards, and Williams had 47. Receiving yards, Allen Robinson, you used to be a Jaguar last season, 4 receptions for 61 yards. Randall Cobb, 9 receptions for 142 yards and a touchdown. Which one of them he broke big and was gone. He just said, I'm out of here. Literally, Aaron Rodgers, he threw it 8 yards, and Randall Cobb ran another 70+. Crazy. But other than that, I have to give the Packers credit. They did have the best game, in my opinion, especially coming back from that deficit that they did have 20-0 at halftime. Absolutely insane. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the National Football League. Monday night, that was yesterday actually, the Jets and Lions ended up playing, and I wasn't expecting this. One of my coworkers came up to me. He's a Jets fan, and he came up and said Sam Darnold threw a pick 6 on his first pass. I'm like, oh, really? I checked it back, and I started laughing. But I shouldn't have been laughing because Brett Favre also threw a pick on his first NFL pass. And it just goes to show you that Sam Darnold said it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I threw a pick, but I showed up and showed out. 48-17, the Jets beat the Lions in Detroit. I wasn't expecting that. But passing yards, Sam Darnold versus Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford did not look his best out there. Definitely getting pressured a lot and a lot of interceptions for him. But Sam Darnold, let's go to him, the rookie out of USC. 16 for 21, 198 through the air, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Matthew Stafford, 27 for 46, 286 passing yards, a touchdown, and 4 interceptions. So I think the Jets have a good defense this season, because if they could get 4 takeaways in this game and absolutely kill the Lions off, that is going to be a tough team to beat, especially if you're the New England Patriots or the Miami Dolphins in the same division as them. Moving on, Isaiah Crowell, 10 carries, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Jets. Theo Riddick, he was on my fantasy, and now he's about to be off my fantasy. 4 carries for 20 yards. But I guess he was playing a good defense, so oh well. But we got receiving yards for the Jets. Inua, no idea how to say it. Inua, something like that. 6 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown. And Holiday, No, wow. Galladay for the Lions had 7 receptions, 114 yards in this game. Wow. I was not expecting the Jets to go off like they did, and Sam Darnold, he looked pretty good in this game, with the exception of the pick on the first throw of his NFL career. Rams and Raiders. I was expecting something like this in the sense I was watching this game yesterday night, and it was an interesting game. It was an interesting game up until the fourth quarter where, of course, your man Derek Carr ended up throwing a pick for no reason. He ended up lobbing it up over and right to the defender, which made no sense. But hey, who knows what he was thinking? 33-13. The Rams ended up killing the Raiders in this one, 20-point victory. Passing yards: Jared Goff versus Derek Carr, 18 for 33 for 233 yards, 2 touchdowns for Jared Goff. Derek Carr, not a good game, but he did throw a lot. He did throw a lot and get a lot of passing yards, but not a good game overall. Derek Carr, 29 for 40, 303 yards, and 3 interceptions. He just started throwing it up and chucking it up at the end of the game, so I understand where those 3 interceptions came from, with the exception of the one he literally just threw to the defender, and I wasn't expecting that. Rushing yards: Todd Gurley versus Marshawn Lynch. Todd Gurley did not get in the end zone in this game. 20 carries for 108 yards. Marshawn Lynch, though, did get in the end zone in this game. 11 carries for 41 yards. And I think John Gruden is definitely wanting to use him more in the backfield. Receiving yards: Brandon Cooks versus Jared Cook. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. Let's check the tape. Let's check what his name actually is before someone calls. Yep, Jared Cook. 9 receptions, 180 yards as a tight end. Played for Aaron Rodgers last season. No, he didn't play for Aaron Rodgers last season because Aaron Rodgers was injured. He played for him for the first few games, and then Aaron Rodgers got injured, and he had to play with Brett Hundley. But other than that, that's neither here nor there. Brandon Cooks, 5 receptions for 87 yards for the Rams, and Jared Cook, 9 receptions for 180 yards for the Oakland Raiders. That was the recap for you all of Week 1. I want to do these every Tuesday because I like looking at the top players and how they did and things of that sort. And, of course, going through the scores with you all if you all missed the game or something like that. But other than that, I thank you so much for your support. This was NFL Recap by your boy Dom Kemp. Thank you so much. We will be back next week for another NFL Recap unless something crazy happens in trades and stuff like that. Le'Veon Bell news, something like that. I will be back with NFL news sometime this week if something crazy and dramatic happens. But if it doesn't, then we'll be back next Tuesday with NFL news. I'm trying to get some basketball news in here as well, not just NFL or some college football news as well. But other than that, thank you so much for your support. Like and subscribe. I will talk to you guys later. Peace, guys.